Thank you very much for sitting down with us. How was the tour of the facility?
Oh my
I
gosh.
thought that was amazing.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah.
But the tour was absolutely the best way of spending a Thursday afternoon. So uplifting, so inspiring, just soul changing.
Yeah.
Lovely.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing what Masifunda has done with the place. I want to ask you a couple of questions. I want to start with your perspective on what's happening in South Africa currently. What do you see in terms of where South Africa is?
Yeah. I mean, that's a very big question.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the answer, South Africa, I think, is in a very challenging space, facing a lot of headwinds, no matter which way you look at it. From a development point of view, from an infrastructure point of view, from all the social indicators, not looking good, from a competitive point of view, from a foreign direct investment point of view. I think, lots and lots of challenges. We couldn't even pass a budget just 2 weeks ago for the first time ever.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very challenging space that South Africa finds itself in. Highest unemployment rate in the world, one of the most, according to the World Poverty measurements, the most unequal country in the world, 30 years after a democracy. Not a good place to be. 80% of children unable to read and write for meaning by the time they're 10 years old. And the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah. Those are all of the not so nice things, happening in our country currently. Are there any trends and specific dynamics that you would feel all non-profits must be aware of in terms of where South Africa is? Are there any trends that you can think of or dynamics in the country that particularly people in the non-profit sector must be aware of?
Okay, so that's one of them, is that our country is in there are needs everywhere. No matter whether it's education, whether it's hunger, whether it's housing, there are needs upon needs, and the needs are growing because poverty is becoming more and more entrenched. All the social ills are becoming worse and worse. So there are needs everywhere. As a result, South Africa has one of the highest number of NPOs per capita in the world. So I think we've got more than 50,000, which is one of the highest rates. That means that the demands, and like I was saying, because the economy is also not growing, unfortunately. Companies who are the main funders of NGOs, there's a lot of demand on their resources, and their budgets aren't going up because people aren't buying because they're poor, because they're unemployed, and all of that. So there is a lot of need, a lot of NGOs, and the money and the budgets are not growing. So that's what NGOs do. So in order to get funding, it's a competitive space even for NGOs.
You mentioned funding, right? If we were to zoom into the automotive industry, what does that funding landscape look like from your perspective, in terms of the automotive industry, particularly for non-profits?
I don't think we're different from other corporates. 93% of all organizations fund education, for instance. It's the most funded sector. And then after education, it would, and the whole gamut of education, from early childhood development, Actually, even, the first 1,000 days, early childhood development, primary school, I think a lot more focus is going in the early years, and then all the way through to tertiary and employment initiatives. And then a lot of support goes to skills development and social support, supporting NGOs. And then health is a big issue. Not necessarily in the automotive sector, I would think, but a lot of companies are driven by the needs of the communities in which they find themselves. So depending,
it is a good thing.
Yes, it is a very good thing. The community, depending on the local circumstances, that's where you generally tend to go.
Yeah. In which sectors does majority of the funding sit? And I know that we're speaking to non-profits, people in the non-profit sector. So in your analysis, in your experience, which are the sectors that have a lot of funding for people in the non-profit sector? And coupled with that, which sectors do you think that non-profit leaders should not be knocking on, if any? Putting you on the spot.
The biggest funders of CSI in South Africa, there are about 195 corporates that contribute the lion's share of funding that goes to NGOs. So in 2024, funding given to NGOs was about 12.7 billion rands, okay, which is up.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, but if you compare it to government budgets, it pales into comparison. And that 12.7 billion comes from 195 companies, but 60% of that comes from only less than 100 companies, okay? But the biggest funders are the mining companies, the chemicals companies, the mineral resource complex, Sasol's, chemistry, whatever. That's the first sector. Then the second sector that has the biggest funds is what I would call the retail sector, like the Checkers, Pick and Pay.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Vodacom's, MTN. Telecommunications. They have big budgets. I mean, you can understand they have really big breadth. They have, hundreds and hundreds of stores, and they have high turnovers, and they're very consumer interfacing, directly consumer interfacing. Then the third sector that really plows a lot of money into the NGO and CSI sector, the financial services sector, the banks. Banks, insurance companies, and financial services companies in general.
That's very interesting.
Yeah,
and if we were to zoom into VW, in terms of funding, what focus areas do you guys have when you talk to or when non-profits approach you? What are you looking for?
Yeah, so like I said before, education is big for us because we think that education is the single biggest thing that changes lives and society and communities and countries. But we have a very strong focus on the early years, like I was saying, The first 1,000 days, literacy, reading for meaning, and then primary school education. But then we invest throughout, because investing in education and children is a holistic thing. And you have to start from the beginning and attend to all of that. We also have because of the high youth unemployment in our country, we have a very strong focus on youth development. Youth development through sports, youth development through creating pathways to opportunity, through creating, not too different from, through creating agency and confident young people who are ready to take up opportunities in society.
Preconditions that you look at?
To find NGOs.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big one. Like I said, I keep coming back to the fact that NGOs really need to know that it's also competitive for them. Okay, it's not enough to just be an NGO and just be there. First of all, you have to really have a good story. What is the problem you're solving for? And how are you going to do it? And what evidence do you have that what you do works and will show results? That's very, very important.
It must work.
Or you must be honest and say, this is what I've tried based on this, and these are the results I got. If it didn't work, then I tried that, and this is what is now working. We are open to people who are honest about their learning journeys, but who are willing to learn and improve and authentic. So that's very important for me, and I think for us. But secondly, reputation and integrity and governance are important. You've got to be a trustworthy, and your reputation has got to stand up to credibility and to scrutiny. Because we don't want to be associated with people you know, whose ethics are not upstanding,
Questionable,
or are questionable. And then, I think, lastly, collaboration and professionalism, and just hard work and being ethical, and just really commitment to what you're doing.
No, those are all good points, and I think every person in the non-profit sector can learn a lot from what you've just said. Last one is, what advice do you have for people in the non-profit sector?
Yes, work hard. I mean, really commit to learning and improving. There are no universal formulas. There's no one size fits all. Different communities are different. The context is different.
The needs are different.
The needs are different, but there's a lot that can be gained from collaborating. We find so many times, so many NGOs working in the same area, even doing the same things, but not talking to each other, not building off each other's strengths, and not working together. And that I think takes away from the benefits that could accrue to everybody.
No, thank you so much for your insights, and I really hope that they add value to all our listeners and viewers at home.
I hope so too. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course.